So with Google Meet, you have the option to host a meeting and have students join, parents join. You can control the microphones, share your screens, a variety of different options. And you can launch that meeting through Google Classroom, which is really the best way to do it when you've got a group of students, because it's going to create a meeting room for you that is sort of locked down and invite only, and you're going to have more host controls that way than if you were to just launch a general meeting from meet.google.com or say from your own private account possibly. So let's look at how this works within Classroom. In Classroom here, already I've got it turned on. The Meet feature is sitting here over on the side, and it's going to allow me to go ahead and just hit join and launch that meeting. But you can see right below it at the moment I have not visible to students. So if I come in here as a student for this classroom, then I actually don't see anything at all. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the settings and show you where this happens. So click the gear up in the corner, come down the list, and in the general section, I'm going to come down and I'm going to see Manage Meet Links. So this is where I toggled off the option for students to see that. So if I need to just hide it for some reason for a little while, you can just toggle that off and hit save, and it's good. But I'm going to reset this from scratch just to show you how it would look from the very, very absolute beginning. Click this. I'm going to go ahead and remove the link entirely. And save it. Means that back here, let's see, if I refresh, does anything change? No. Okay, so that is still there for me as the teacher, but again, not visible to students at all. And by hitting that, it's going to have to reset and create everything. Because if I go back into my settings right now and come down, we should see, oh, there we go. The link has been recreated. It's back. I can use it now. And if I toggle this on and hit save, my students will be able to see it. And I can reset that at any time. That was one of those options on that menu as well. And in fact, right here, when I hit the three dots, I can also copy that link, or when I go to manage, it gives me an option again to go ahead and reset or completely remove the link, depending on what I need to do at the time. I'm going to say done, and go ahead and launch this meeting now. Okay, so on this screen here, we've got my camera running. I can go ahead and join the meeting. I'll just mute myself for a second here. I have my basic controls at the bottom for mute, turning off my camera if I needed to, turn on or off closed captioning, which really only affects me. If students want to see closed captioning, they can turn that on for themselves. The option there is that if I turn that on, it just means that anything said during the meeting automatically gets typed out for me at the bottom of the screen, and I can see what's going on there. So that's helpful for me, and you can certainly point it out to students so they can use it as well. I've got the hand raising option that students can use so that if I have a student in the room, and I'll have one join me right now. Okay, I'm going to allow notifications and join the room. There we go. So the other student has now joined. Mute that for a second. And it means that if they were to then hit raise their hand, oh, that's me, sorry, raising my hand. If I go ahead and turn that off and the student raises their hand, that's where we're actually going to see that option pop up. And I'm going to know that they have, in fact, raised their hand. And when I come to the people panel here, I should be able to see that as well. There it is. Technology Services Professional Development, which is my student right now, has in fact raised the hand. So with that up, it just means that they're going to be able to ask some questions. Well, they can ask questions anyway, but it means that I can go ahead and, acknowledge them and ask them to go ahead and turn on their mic and let me know what it is that they need to say. Now in this case, as the teacher, I can come over to the people panel here and go ahead and lower that hand. I can go to all muted if I needed to mute the entire classroom, then that's certainly possible. Right now they're muted anyway, so it's fine. I can go to add people, and so I could invite individuals this way. But this is the thing that's nice about using Classroom is because I've launched it through Classroom, anybody on my people list, all the students in my classroom, they're automatically invited to the meeting. So they'll be able to click that meet link and join this without any kind of extra hiccups or bumps or anything like that. Which means not only do I not need to add them, but if I go to my host controls here, there's an option. Oh, not right here actually. Okay, I'm going to close that for a moment. Come to the very bottom where I see the little circle, square, and triangle option. When I click that, I'm going to see some different activities, but actually right next to it is a little shield, and that gives me more access to host controls. So if I click that, I have host management turned on. I can scroll down a little bit past the options to let people share their screens. I generally have that turned on. Use the chat messages. I keep that turned on too. And then turn on their microphone. So those options are ones that you can turn on and turn off as you see fit to sort of limit the access and the interaction you're getting from the students if you needed to. You can turn on or off their option to use video. And then down here is quick access. So this right now is off by default, which basically just means that anybody not invited to the meeting, so random people, can't just join. If they get their access or they get their hands on your link because maybe a helpful student came and copied that and then pasted it into Twitter or Facebook or a text message or something, the people getting that link are not going to be able to actually just jump into your meeting. What will happen instead is they will get that um, link popping up, or sorry, they'll get that link and attempt to join the meeting, but instead of actually getting in, what they'll end up doing is getting basically blocked by a screen here. So if I were to try and do that right now, it would end up looking like this. I've jumped in with a guest window here. I've pasted in the address. My name is Trouble, trying to get into your meeting. When I click Ask to Join, this is what you're going to see as a teacher, is someone wants to join this call, and I can deny them entry. So I don't have to let those people in. So because they're not invited and they're not on the list, they're not just getting direct access to my classroom. Whereas if I were to turn on quick access here, that would have allowed that person to just jump into the meeting and join us. So we leave that turned off right now. And from within Meet, I'm going to have the option to click this little Present Now button at the very bottom. And in that list, I have entire screen, a window, or a tab. And there's a big difference between these different options. So generally, I would go with your entire screen. And part of that is because if there are menus or little pop-ups or little options or settings boxes coming up on screen, if I go with just a window because I want to share just a particular screen or a particular program, then some of those pop-ups are not really actually going to launch. You won't even actually see them as the user, as the students on the other end. And if you're trying to show them how to adjust settings for something that you need them to do, that's going to be a big problem. So the entire screen option is a little more universal that way. Whatever pops up on screen, it is going to allow you to go ahead and share that with the class. Now what will happen if you happen to have more than one screen plugged in is when you choose this, you actually get to see both of those screens right now. I have a second monitor going, so you see both options. Now I have to pick the one that I want to share, and then I can hit that blue share button, which makes perfect sense when I have more than one screen turned on. One frustrating problem, though, is that when people click the Present Now and go to entire screen, even if there's only one monitor available, only one screen available, it will still bring up this screen or this option. You still need to click it to get that share button to light up. So even if there is no choice to be made and you have a single screen, you still click on it once and hit that share button to get things going. So in either case, really good option that way. The only time I would shy away from that generally is for the tab option here. The reason I would use tab is so I'm able to go ahead and use audio. So it says right on there, best for video and animation. If I want to show a YouTube video or some other video maybe that I've got on my drive or anywhere else really, I want that audio and video to actually go through the meeting and allow the students to see that. And if I go with some of these other options, Meet will actually exclude that audio from going out to the meeting so that your audience isn't hearing every sound your machine makes, dings and notifications and other things that might be going on. It actually gets that out of there. So this tab option is exclusively used essentially for making sure that you get those audio and video signals going through your meeting to the users. Now, in cases where maybe internet is really poor and that doesn't seem to be working, you're getting a lot of lag every time you try and show videos to people, your alternative option is to use the chat. So when I come down to the bottom corner here, next to the little people panel, I also have this chat window. And I can open that up and I can type anything. There we go, type. anything, hit enter, and it's going to go out to that chat window, and the users in my meeting are going to be able to see that, and any students that are actually in there. So they can write back, and if I wanted them to see a particular video and it wasn't working through the meeting because things are just lagging too much, you go ahead and paste that YouTube video right into here and allow them to watch it on their own machine. That would avoid a lot of lag. And you'll know how long the video is. So if I go to a random YouTube video here, just pull one up from the channel. There we go. I'll pause that right there. I could simply right-click on this video and copy the URL and then go over to my chat and go ahead and paste that right in there. Since we're here though, what if I wanted you to see a very specific point of the video right here at about, say, 3:20? Well, I could right-click there and say copy the video URL at the current time. That means when I come back to my meeting and I paste it in for my students, it's going to include this specific timestamp at the end. So I can send that to the students and say, okay, I want you to watch this now. I'm giving you 2 minutes, because I know how much time is left in the video. Go ahead and watch that, and we will come back and talk about it in 2.5 minutes from now. And do it that way. So it's sort of an alternative option when you really, really have to. But the chat window, essentially, and the reason I bring it up, is just going to be an easy way for you to post links, links to Drive files, to websites, to YouTube videos, to really anything you want people to go visit and browse to. You're going to have a nice option there to go ahead and do that whenever you want. And the chat will be handy for students to interact there as well. And anytime you need to, you can turn this part off here. Let everyone send messages. Just toggle that off, and now those students are not going to have the option to clutter up the chat with more and more messages while I'm trying to deliver lesson material. So you could turn that off for a little bit. Depending on your licensing, you can come down to the activities box here and see what you've got available in there. If you have the full license, you'll be able to record meetings. You can launch a whiteboard, which is Google Jamboard. It will just give you the option to immediately start a brand new whiteboard, or possibly choose one that you are already working on in Drive. It'll allow you to launch a Q&A pod where I can turn that on, and it allows the audience to start asking questions. So in that case, the audience has the option to go ahead and ask questions to me through Q&A, and they might ask something like, I don't know, what is your favorite sport? Hit that. It's going to pop up as a question. So this is a little different than the chat option that we have. Here, as the teacher, I can look at that question and then respond just verbally to the entire class. My favorite sport is jiu-jitsu. And then when I'm done with that, I can go ahead and just check that as answered, and I know it's dealt with and it's sorted out, and I don't need to look at that again. And in fact, I can go here to show and say, you know what, I only need the unanswered question. So as soon as I've answered that question and I check it, it's just going to disappear. I'm not going to be answering the same question over and over again. So a little different than a chat pod, a little more sort of tailored to a specific need that way. When I back out, I have poll questions I can ask people as well. So I might ask the class, which do you prefer? And I give them some choices like, I don't know, downhill skiing. Oop, not sinking. Skiing. Or water skiing. There we go. And I can go ahead and launch that for people and allow the audience, the users basically, to go ahead and pick which one they prefer. And as they do that, I'm going to see votes come in on there, and I can just go to get that. So again, it allows it to be a cleaner option than just having everybody, post in the chat whatever they think. This way, I get a nice tight little box here showing me exactly what everybody prefers. I get these vote tallies coming up, and whenever I'm done, I can end that poll, and people will stop voting on it. So you've got some nice options that way to sort of ask questions and get feedback and keep it more streamlined and less messy in the chat. I might be able to use breakout rooms as well. I can create multiple breakout rooms and decide how many I need, whether or not there's a timer there at all, and then actually drag people into these different rooms if I need to. So I get to specify what the groups are going to be, and then hit open rooms, and it's going to launch these sort of separate meeting rooms and pull people into them for as long as I want until I'm ready to end those rooms and bring everybody back. So just a quick look at how those features will work. Not everybody's going to have those depending on your licensing. But we definitely have access to that chat, and we can use that for all those same tools, just a little bit messier. But when I'm in here with students, if they've decided to turn on their microphone, I have the option to click here, remove them if necessary, or just click right on that little speaker icon and mute them. Not really a speaker icon, it's probably not a great description of it, but the three little dots that start bouncing around whenever you're speaking there, you can click that and just mute that person whenever you need to. Or, of course, mute everybody if the whole class is chattering away. I can also hit those three dots, as you saw. I can pin them to the screen. That's going to mean that whoever I have pinned, they take priority on screen here. So it won't keep switching between everybody as they make noise or move around or do something. It will keep just that one person as the main focus if that's what I want to see. I can remove them from the call, of course, if the student's being a problem, and I can add somebody as a co-host. Now that's, again, a feature you may or may not have the option to do, but what it allows, essentially, is I could make this person, if they were another teacher in the room, I could add them as a co-host, and that would give them all those same abilities I just showed you. They'd have all the access that I would have. Rather than the normal student access where they don't get some of those host options. But it would allow the other person to help me manage the meeting a little bit. Or maybe I could make them a co-host because I had to leave and go somewhere else. Whatever the reason is, it's a nice option. The little info details button at the bottom doesn't give us a whole lot of information except for the meeting address and that option to dial in. Remember, whenever you copy joining info, if you're just going to say paste it into an email or something, it includes that phone number. You really don't want to use that phone number though, if you can help it. What that will do, if I were to put that out and tell somebody to call it, they're going to end up paying long distance fees to call into my meeting. Whereas if I dial out to them, which I can do with that invite option here, if I come back to add people, I can call someone's phone number and bring them into the meeting as an audio option. This is a good one for parent-teacher interviews and such. So you can call that parent at an assigned time and bring them into the meeting, and they never get access to your phone number, either because you haven't sent it to them and there's no call display type options, there's nothing for them to bookmark for afterwards. All they get is pulled into this meeting and you can have an audio conversation with them that way. And nobody that way will incur any kind of long distance fees. So in that sense, if you need to use audio only, you want to call them. You don't want to have them ever jump into the meeting because you sent them this phone number. That number appears when I come to the very bottom corner over here as well, I believe, if it's still there. Oh, they took that feature away, never mind. The copy joining info is always over here as well. And they've just buried it under info instead, which is fine. Again, same number, same issue, unfortunately. And when I hit the three dots here, I get access to my last screen full of different settings. So there's a handful of different visual effects you can apply now. I can blur my background a bit if I want to, or I can apply some of these other backgrounds if I want to. Whatever sort of suits you in that sense. And you don't need a green screen tool behind you like I've got right now. It'll pretty much outline you and figure out what it needs to do for all of those different effects. A lot of people will certainly go with just a bit of a blur. The other thing I can do here is certainly change my layout options because I can go between the sidebar choice where it'll keep people sort of lined up next to me here versus a spotlight option where they really get full screen. Tiled is a nice one. If I were to go to tiled and unpin this person, why are you pinned? You shouldn't be pinned. Let's see. Unpin. Yeah, it's kind of just because there's two of us at the moment. When you get a series of people, a bunch of people all in the room with you, that's when tiled is really, really handy. For big meetings, tiled is a really great option because you're going to be able to see everybody kind of Brady Bunch style all across the screen all at once. And you just want to crank that up as high as you can go, and that'll get you as many people as possible. And then auto will kind of switch between all of these different modes as it sees fit. Usually, for a lot of these spotlight and sidebar type modes, whoever's speaking will become the focus. That'll be the one that you see on screen. As soon as that person stops speaking, somebody else begins speaking, they become the focus on screen. So it just sort of does automatic, video production type tasks for you. You don't have to sit there switching between people. I can turn on and off the captions we mentioned earlier. Potentially I can record a video, it just depends. I can always report problems or abuse. I can look for troubleshooting options, and then I can get into the settings where I see a bit more of these options. So if I need to switch between different microphones or different speakers or potentially different video cameras, because I have a few set up here, then you can always do that. I can jump into general, which doesn't give us a whole lot of options. Host controls we were looking at earlier, where I can prevent people from sharing screens, prevent them from chatting, using their mics. It's all the same tools we looked at earlier that were buried under this little shield, including quick access. And then finally captions there as well. If I needed to change the language at all, I could do that. So lots of good choices and features within Meet for you to go ahead and control that, and super handy that way to be able to do all of that and actually just sort of run your meeting, control what's going on, see how that's all working, and keep it working well for you the way you want it to work. So really good option to be able to launch these meetings right out of Google Classroom, right from this join button right here, and go ahead and have all of your kids in that meeting with you, whether you're using it for, again, student meetings or for parent-teacher type interviews. Just having that immediate access to Google Meet right there is super, super handy. And knowing that, of course, all of those controls are there, so you can be a host and deal with your participants in any way that you might need to, including removing them when necessary.